Hey guys, in this video I'll be showing to you my Atari 2600 video game collection. Now the Atari 2600 is a really easy system to collect for. Most of the games are pretty cheap, and if you buy them online you can actually find lots of games that sell for usually pretty cheap, which is a good way to build up a nice collection real fast. Now all the games that I own I really got half of them I pretty much got when I bought this game, and this system and the other half when I bought this system. So anyways, without further ado, let's get to it. First off, I have two versions of Missile Command. Missile Command is pretty much the game that got me into Atari 2600 game collecting, because I had a game, it was basically a Missile Command clone for Windows 3 back in like the early 90s, and I used to play that game a lot. And when I saw a video of Missile Command and I remembered the game, I just really had to go get it. And I also have the instruction manual for it. Then we have Ms. Pac-Man, or Miss Pac-Man, Pitfall Harry's Jungle Adventure, Qbert, River Raid, Space Invaders, which pretty sure you've probably heard of, even if you haven't played any of the older arcade games. Heck, I'm pretty sure you heard of Miss Pac-Man too. Space War. Now, Space War. This is the port of one of the first computer games. Not the first, but it was a computer game, I believe, programmed first on a PDP-1 computer, which is a computer as big as a room, and it was programmed in 1958 by some MIT students. And if you know a bit of your Atari history and you've heard of Nolan Bushnell, you'll know that the first game that he actually brought to an arcade-style machine was Computer Space, which is essentially a Space War port. Anyways, that was a little long. Sorry about that. Then I have a blank cartridge, but it's actually Star Wars Jedi Arena. Here we have Venture, which is surprisingly a Coleco-made game, which I thought was kind of odd, because I thought, they had their own system. So then we have Super Breakout, which is a really fun game. Video Olympics, which is basically different versions of Pong. Warlords. Word Zapper, which is essentially an educational title. And finally, for this pile, we have Yar's Revenge, which is a really fun game. And another thing that's cool about it is, with the instruction manual, you actually also get a comic book, which basically is the story based on the game. All the games have the really crazy stories. This one is basically you're a mutated housefly and you have to defend your world. Sort of like if I go back to Missile Command. At first, if you know Missile Command, essentially it's just you have to protect cities from missiles. And since this was in the 80s, in the Cold War era, I figured, it's probably, you're an American trying to save your cities from Russian missiles. But it turns out, in fact, you aliens from the planet Kryal have begun an attack on the planet Zardon. So you're actually a Zardonian defending yourself against Cryolian missiles or whatever. So, anyways, next we have a Defender. 2 copies of Demon Attack with different style labels. Big Doug. Dolphin. Another Coleco game, but this one you may know. Donkey Kong. Very fun game. Enduro. Oops, upside down. Frogger. Pac-Man, Junior Pac-Man. Laser Blast. Keystone Capers, Kung Fu Master, Mario, the first Mario Brothers game, and is the first game to feature Luigi. Now, another game that I showed, which is a popular arcade game. Well, I showed a bunch of popular arcade games, but games that most people or most Nintendo fans would know as, you know, the Donkey Kong arcade and the Mario arcade. Well, one problem with the Atari 2600 is that the ports, you know, they weren't really true to, I'd say, to the original arcade ones. Not to say that they weren't fun, but they weren't as fun. Both games, I believe, were remade for the Atari 7800, which are better versions of them. So, if you have yourself a 7800, I'd suggest go after the 7800 versions, not the 2600 versions. And I also think they had these games for the NES anyway. So, heck, if you have an NES, get those versions. Maze Craze, which is just, you know, sort of a cop and robbers game. Crystal Castles, Concentration. I can't play this game because you need a keyboard controller and I don't have any. Two versions of Combat, and again, this is the last manual I have. I only have 3 manuals, and this one it's interesting because it helps you by telling you which setting to put it on if you want to play what style game. Coconuts, or Coconuts. Chopper Command. Centipede. Capture. Bowling. Berserk. Barnstorming. Now, the thing about this game, you might notice that one of them is a hole and the other one's a screw. That's because this game, when I originally got it, the inside was all bright orange and didn't work. So, I mean, it was heavily corroded. So I opened it up, and, well, one thing I hate, first of all, is that they put the screws under the label instead of at the back. So you pretty much have to ruin your game when you open it. Anyways, I opened it up, I cleaned it, and now it works. Sadly, there were 2 other games in that lot that I got that didn't really fare so well. This one's Spider-Man, and you can see I didn't clean the backs just to show. I mean, they're really terribly, you know, corroded with all the orange you see. This one I tried to clean, but it just won't come off. And this other one I did clean, and it looks fairly good, but it still doesn't work. So I'm guessing there's probably still corrosion under the chip or somewhere around the pin, so it's screwing it up. Anyways, just 2 more games to go. First one is Asteroids, and the last game, which I have 2 copies of, is Adventure, which is, I'd say, pretty much one of the first graphic adventure games. Anyways, that was it for my Atari 7800 collection. It's pretty much my entire Atari game collection. I don't own any 7800 games, and that I pretty much only own the 2600 and the 7800 system. So that's it for that, and I hope you enjoyed it.